In a world where more and more men are substituting real romantic relationships for transactional pleasure, this video is important. So today I'm going to talk about porn addiction, and it's something that plagues a lot of men all around the world. This is more targeted towards men. You might have clicked this video because this is an issue that you're going with. Of course, this is something personal to you. You know, it's embarrassing. You probably don't tell anyone about it. So you're just kind of on YouTube and you found this video. You know, I'm not going to bore you with why it happens, but I'm going to give you some concrete steps as to how you can get out of it, because it's a terrible thing. I'll give a short explanation about why it happens, but the main bulk of this video will be how you can stop it from completely controlling your life. So why are we drawn to these pornographic images, sex, just lust in general? Well, the pornographic industry is a complete abuse of the natural human instinct. We as humans, we kind of are out there for sex, because what sex means evolutionarily, sex means that you have kids and you make babies, and then you, of course, you reproduce, right? So the natural sex drive is a natural thing in humans. And what porn does is, you know, instead of you doing it, you're actually just watching it. You're consuming it, and then, you know, obviously you do what you do, and you've just, you know, you've satisfied the craving, but you get nothing from it, right? And it's just a shameful thing. You know, post-net clarity exists for that reason, to kind of reveal to you just like, you know, why did you do that, right? But it isn't abuse. The entire industry is just to say, it's just to kind of, it's the same type of thing as social media, except even in even more extreme circumstances, to keep you hooked. It's to keep you hooked on it and to keep you completely addicted to jerking off. And lust is one of the devil's greatest temptations. Lust is a super powerful emotion that drives a lot of people, that drove a lot of real powerful men into failure, destruction, because of lust. King Solomon in the Bible, he was a great king. He built the temple. He had God's favor. And then the lust of women took him over at the end of his life, and he was destroyed from it. And his fall was a big fall from it. And David as well, same thing. He was a very faithful servant of God, but he had a big sin where lust is what made him sleep with one of his friends or one of his close companions' wives. And lust is a thing that destroys people, destroys great people, and even destroys the average person. And with porn being so readily there, it destroys more and more people's minds from an earlier age too. It destroys more and more people's minds every single day. And, you know, jerking off is never the answer, right? It was a good thing from Andrew Tate where he said, you know, you have to, every time in your life, you have to look at it as a chessboard. Even if things are going wrong, you have to look at the best move. What's the best move you can play in this situation? Things might not change. You might still lose the game, but at least you tried your best. And he's like, jerking off is never the best move on the board of life, ever. And that's right. 100% right. I could go out and list all the reasons why it's bad, but, you know, if you're in the trenches, if you're in that actual addiction, in that lustful temptation of it, then of course you understand that it's bad. Most likely you're here because you understand why it's bad. You know, the actual mental significance, the shame it gives you, the hormonal disruption that it gives you, and just, you know, the memories that it gives you, and just the shame of it, and how it actually, you know, you waste time, it doesn't benefit you, all of these reasons. I don't have to go over them. You already know because you're deep in it, and that's why you're here. So let's go to how. How do you stop? This really applies to any addiction, not just pornography, but it's a big thing. And it's related to sex, of course. If you sleep with a bunch of women and you do one night stands and party and all this stuff, it's the same type of thing. Because the idea is sex is God's covenant with man. God gives us sex and makes us feel pleasurous with sexual desires because it allows us to reproduce. And it allows us to be fruitful and multiply and spread God's kingdom by having kids. So God gives us sex. And we as humans, because of the pleasure and because of our radical natures, we abuse it. So whether or not it's actual sex or porn in general, and porn is just a worse thing in general. Just watching it is even worse. Both kind of are in the same type of boat when it comes to disobeying God, and turning something that God has made to be good into something truly evil and sinister and riotous. And it's there's a reason why in the Bible it talks so much about why lust is so bad. You can read the Proverbs, you can read some teachings of Jesus, right? The Sermon on the Mount, he talks about lust, and it's so bad because it affects so many people. If it didn't affect so many people, it wouldn't be something talked about. And of course, you're here for those reasons as well, because it's probably affecting you. So it applies with all addictions. Some of these strategies. First and foremost, it's how to quit watching, how to quit even feeling the desire to watch or feeling the desire to have sex, having the horniness, the lustful desires. Step one is creating the environment. Create an environment that promotes work, that promotes exercise, that promotes prayer, that promotes, good routines, and is set up so that you can be in a good routine, and you wouldn't even have the thought. You would be so focused on your routines that you wouldn't even have the thought. You wouldn't even feel the temptation for a second. If you have to download porn blocker apps on your phone or whatever's out there, really, it helps, right? It helps because it allows it to be far away from your mind, and just limiting your access to it also helps. And it's just creating the environment that makes it easy to do other things, makes it actually even more difficult, and you have to climb over all these hurdles to actually get to the pleasure that you're looking for. So that's why I say step one, environment is key. You read in books about habits like Atomic Habits, for example, that your environment's key. It starts with the cue. Something happens, and you have to learn these patterns in your own life. Something will happen that triggers it. You have to figure out what that something is and limit that something, right? Limit what it is so that the trigger doesn't even happen, so that you're not even feeling the feeling. And then if you feel the feeling, and if for whatever reason you feel the feeling, it's about learning emotional self-control, right? If you have emotional self-control in your other feelings in your daily life, anger, your fear, your sadness, you can control yourself, you can be stoic, you can learn to feel emotions without acting them out. It'll apply absolutely to lust all the same. If you can learn it in all of these other ways, lust will also follow. Even if it is a powerful thing, it will also follow. And you will learn to control it. And even if you do feel the feeling, you'll be able to subdue it, put your mind onto other things, and ideally you have a good environment that you can shift your mind to better things rather than, the shame and guilt that comes from jerking off. And of course, great strategies is you get into a real relationship. If you get an actual girlfriend, it will teach you, how to actually be faithful, how to actually be loyal to someone, and it will maybe open your eyes even further about just how bad the habit really is. And it will, make you even more open to stopping, to quitting. So it definitely help. And, even if you get in a relationship and you're still watching porn in a relationship, that relationship will go to crap. It will become a mess. It will not work out at all. And you'll, after the hard breakup, inevitably, that'll also be a lesson you can use to actually start quitting and realizing that this is not a good thing for you at all. And of course, going outside. It doesn't matter what time of day it is. Go outside. If you spend too much time in the comfort of your own home, you spend too much time by yourself, even if you're doing work and stuff, eventually it gets to a point where you lose control over your own thoughts. So if you go outside, you get some fresh air, I don't know, you talk to a couple people, right? It allows your mind to kind of be centered a bit. And if you're feeling tempting feelings, to just put them away, replace them with better, more positivity. You got some fresh air, you take a deep breath, and mindfulness, and you remember God's word, and you remember the faith, and you remember the things that truly are wrong when it comes to jerking off, and all of the bad consequences that come from it. And it will make it a lot easier to come back home, go back into the exact place you were in and you felt the temptation, and say, okay, let's do something else, or let's go to sleep, or whatever it may be, right? I don't know what is going on in your life, right? I'm just giving a couple of guidelines, because it's a tough thing, right? Because no one's ever going to admit it. No one's ever going to admit that they do it. That like someone who's addicted is not going to come out and straight up say it. And if they do, fair play to them, right? They are ridiculously bold because that's such a private matter. It's literally your private parts, what you're actually doing and playing and finagling with yourself, right? You know what you do, right? You know, and just the thought of it can be a little bit tough, right? A little bit tough to actually recognize as a problem, a little bit tough to stop completely. And sometimes you might stop and you might go a couple weeks or a couple months, you think everything's great, and then some cue happens that reinvigorates the feeling and you have no control. So you have to build the strength, right? A better environment, better values in yourself, a purpose, a meaning. There's this great phrase, great saying that I'm going to maybe botch, but I'm going to try and say it. In life, when you lack meaning, you replace meaning with pleasure. And when you lack pleasure, you replace the pleasure with meaning. So if you basically just cut everything off, like you have no, even if you wanted to, you had no means to watch porn at all, ideally, you would find meaning. You would find something better to do anyway because you can't do it anyway. So try and do that as much as you can and limit it as much as you can, and it'll help. And vice versa. If you don't have meaning in your life, if you don't have a goal that you want to achieve, if you don't have big desires and things that you can actually see yourself getting to, and you don't have plans for where you want to be in the future, and you're just kind of meandering along, you'll distract yourself with pleasure. And porn is just probably one of the many pleasures that you distract yourself with. So better to find a purpose you can drive towards. You can actually build your life around a purpose. And that purpose will overcome any desire, any pleasure, anything to watch porn, to have sex, to do one-night stands. All of that kind of gets overruled by your deep goals and your deep desires. So I'll end you off on this. I think, if you're really struggling, right? If you're really struggling, you've tried many times, you don't know what to do, play this video again, try again, and truly try and put some of these things into your life. And hopefully I've given you some ideas. Because at the end of the day, like, jerking off really isn't ever a good thing. Having sex, especially, again, it's God's covenant and you're abusing it. Having sex in a very, very, pornographic way, let's say, you watch it and then you want to mimic it in real life, right? That gets down to a horrible rabbit hole. If you do that, it's just going to completely destroy you. So, realize and truly sit with all of the negative things that come with it. And, take some of these strategies, actually try and create something meaningful from your life rather than just going about the motions. Try and create something you can actually work towards. And that'll overpower any feeling of pleasure at all, porn included. And take some of the advice that I've said here, take some of the things that I've given to you. But, if all else fails, just, keep this in your mind, right? And I will end this episode off with this. Sure, when you lock yourself in your bathroom or your bedroom, no one can see you. You won't get caught most of the time, especially if the door can lock. You won't get caught. Your parents won't find you. Your siblings won't find you. Whoever you're living with, roommate, whatever, won't find you. They won't know. You're just doing it in secret. It's the secrecy of it that makes it even more tempting. But remember, God is always watching. You can lock yourself in a room and people can't see you, but God will see you regardless. And at the end of this commute on earth, God knows every single time you fell, every single day that you fell to lust, fell to temptations, fell to the devil's lie, and he will hold it against you. So truly hate your sin, truly hate the fact, learn to hate the fact that you do jerk off. It doesn't benefit you in your life anyway, and it goes so far against God's teaching. And teach yourself that, and the more you build yourself up as a person, the more you will start to slowly see it finally fade away from your life. So remember, God is always watching, and I know no one's perfect, right? We try and emulate the life of Jesus Christ, but we all fall short because we're not him. He's the only perfect person to ever live on this earth. But know that if you try and you recognize how bad it is and you seek all measures necessary to try and stop it, you will stop it. You will one day find that thing that you finally are able to overcome, that issue, that addiction, the jerking off, and the playing with yourself, whatever that may mean. Just remember, God's always watching. He will praise you and reward you and appreciate you if you're able to get out of such a terrible sin. But if you keep, doing the same thing, remember that God is looking down at you and seeing and counting and watching and observing every single time that you fall. So I end it here. Play this video again if you need the reminders again, just how bad it is, just how much it doesn't help you, and just how much it goes against God's teaching. Sex is a covenant. Sex is a beautiful, amazing thing. I say even wait till marriage because that's the whole point of it. It's amazing. But especially in the riotous way that a lot of people live nowadays, this message is important to say that you should stop. Tell you to stop. Tell you to take a look at just how much it's ruined you and find better things you can go out and pursue. Find better things you can go out and achieve. Find more growth. Give more glory to God. Truly feel bad for the things you do wrong and seek to do better every day. And I believe in each and every one of you that you can absolutely do it. So believe in yourselves that you will overcome the temptation of the devil. Take all means necessary because you understand just how bad it is. So all means necessary to do better in your life. This is just yet another way to do it, to quit jerking off, to quit watching porn, to quit having sex, and truly put your focus on things that are so much greater.